Hey guys, welcome back. Last time we witnessed how the universe itself was born, from chaos to the rise of the first gods on Mount Olympus. But peace among the immortals was never meant to last, because from within the divine family, the son would one day rise against his own father, and the greatest war in the heavens would begin. So just sit back, relax, and enjoy part 2. Have fun!
The Rise of Zeus, how he defeated the Titans. Before there was order in the heavens, before the gods of Olympus sat upon their shining thrones, there was turmoil. The world had already seen one rebellion. The Titans, led by Cronus, had risen up against their father Uranus, the endless sky, and cast him down. For a time, it seemed a new age had begun, an age where the Titans ruled over earth and heaven alike. Cronus, victorious, took the throne of the cosmos for himself. But with his triumph came unease. The blood of Uranus had barely dried upon the earth when whispers reached his ears, a prophecy. It spoke of a son, born of Cronus' own blood, who would rise against him, just as he had risen against his father. The cycle of rebellion, it seemed, was destined to continue. Fear consumed Cronus. He, who had once defied fate, now tried to chain it, and so he devised a dreadful solution. Each time his wife, Rhea, bore him a child, Cronus swallowed the infant whole. With each devouring, he believed he was striking at destiny itself, that by destroying his heirs he could protect his throne forever. One by one, the children vanished into the darkness of their father's belly. First Hestia, goddess of the hearth, then Demeter, bringer of the harvest, Hera, radiant queen-to-be, Hades, lord of the shadows, and Poseidon, master of the seas. All consumed, trapped in the living prison of their father's body. Imagine the despair of Rhea, mother of gods, forced to watch each child ripped away at the moment of birth. Her womb was full of life, yet her arms were forever empty. Her grief echoed through mountains and seas, but Cronus' hunger for power silenced her cries. And yet, fate was not so easily deceived. When her sixth child was born, Rhea could no longer bear the agony. In secret, she fled to the island of Crete, where she delivered the infant far from Cronus' sight. This child was Zeus, fragile, helpless, and yet destined for greatness. To save him, Rhea devised a trick. She wrapped a stone in swaddling cloth and presented it to Cronus as if it were the newborn. The Titan, blinded by arrogance, devoured the stone without suspicion, believing his throne secure for all eternity. But while Cronus feasted on lies, Zeus grew in secret. Hidden in caves, nourished by the milk of the goat Amalthea, guarded by the Curetes, whose clashing weapons drowned out his cries, the child of destiny lived. Each passing day brought him closer to the hour when the prophecy would be fulfilled, so the world held its breath. In the depths of Cronus' belly, the swallowed gods waited in torment. Upon the mountains, the Titans ruled with iron might, and in the shadows, a single child grew strong, preparing to claim his birthright. This is where the story begins. A tyrant, consumed by fear, a prophecy that could not be silenced, and a hidden son who would rise against impossible odds. The question is not whether Zeus would challenge his father, but how. How did this child, born in secrecy, rise to face the might of the Titans? How did he wield the thunderbolt, topple Cronus, and forge a new order that would shape all of mythology? This is the story of the Titanomachy. This is the rise of Zeus, king of the gods. Part 1. The prophecy against Cronus. Long before Zeus would claim his throne, before the thunderbolts and Olympian splendor, the world trembled under the shadow of fear. Cronus, the youngest of the Titans, had seized power by overthrowing his father Uranus. The sky was now his domain, and earth lay beneath his gaze. Mountains and rivers, forests and seas, all were ruled by his hand. For a time, it seemed that his reign would be eternal. But destiny is not so easily silenced. From the depths of prophecy came a warning that haunted even the strongest heart. One of Cronus' own children would rise against him. One child, born of his blood and his union with Rhea, would shatter his throne, just as he had shattered the rule of Uranus. The words of the prophecy were clear, whispered through the mouths of seers and carried by the winds across the mountains. The son of Cronus shall overthrow his father, and the cycle of rebellion shall continue. Fear struck Cronus like a blade through his chest. What once had been ambition now twisted into paranoia. Every smile of Rhea, every cry of her children, every moment of joy became a threat to his rule. For the first time, power did not bring him freedom, it brought him terror. And so, in a bid to cheat fate itself, Cronus took the most terrible of measures. As each child was born, he swallowed them whole, consuming them before they could breathe, before they could speak, before they could grow. Hestia, goddess of the hearth, the gentle flame of home, vanished into the darkness of his belly. Demeter, guardian of the harvest and life, disappeared as swiftly as a wind-blown leaf. Hera, radiant and destined to be queen of the gods, was swallowed before she could claim her place. Hades, lord of the shadowed underworld, and Poseidon, master of the seas, vanished without a trace. One by one, the children were gone, imprisoned within their own father. Rhea, their mother, watched in silence, her heart breaking with each loss. Imagine the grief of a mother forced to surrender her children, to watch life swallowed by fear and cruelty. Each child taken, each life extinguished before it could shine, was a wound upon her soul. But Rhea was clever. She knew that to defeat fate, she would have to outwit Cronus, to deceive the Titan who believed himself invincible. When her sixth child was born, Rhea knew she could not lose him. This child, Zeus, was destined for greatness. His cry would one day shake the heavens, his strength would rival the mountains, his will would challenge even the oldest Titans. So Rhea acted. She wrapped a great stone in swaddling cloths, swaddling it as though it were her newborn son. She presented the stone to Cronus with a serene expression, a mother's mask concealing desperation, fear, and hope all at once. Cronus, blinded by arrogance and terror, seized the child and swallowed the stone. He believed himself safe. He believed that the prophecy was ended. That destiny had been silenced, but the child was hidden, safe from the Titans' devouring hunger, growing in secret on the island of Crete, nurtured by the nymphs and by Amalthea, the divine goat. In the shadows, the prophecy waited, patient and inexorable. This story is more than a tale of gods and monsters. It is a story of fear, the fear of succession, the fear of losing power, the fear of the inevitable. It is a story of cycles repeating across generations, father against son, ambition against destiny, the eternal struggle to escape fate. Cronus' actions were extreme, horrific, yet understandable in the context of prophecy. They remind us that even gods are bound by fear, and that power unchecked by wisdom can become tyranny. And so, the stage was set. One child hidden, one prophecy unbroken, and one father ruled by terror, unaware that his downfall was already in motion. The world waited, trembling, silent, for the moment when Zeus would rise, when the prophecy would be fulfilled, and when the cycle of rebellion would begin anew. Part 2. Zeus' Secret Upbringing. The prophecy had been set in motion, and Cronus believed he had swallowed all threats to his throne. But destiny, as it often does, found a way to endure in secret. On the hidden island of Crete, a child was born, Zeus, the youngest son of Cronus and Rhea. Fragile, small, and yet imbued with the spark of the cosmos, he was the hope that would one day topple the mightiest of Titans. Rhea entrusted him to the care of divine nymphs, beings of the forests, rivers, and mountains, who vowed to protect the infant at all costs. They hid him deep within secret caves, far from the eyes of Cronus, whose hunger for power spared no mercy. Within the dark, echoing caverns, Zeus was nurtured by Amalthea, the sacred goat whose milk was said to be imbued with divine energy. Each drop of her milk strengthened him, filling him with vitality, courage, and the power that would one day rival the heavens. But even the caves could not guarantee safety without sound. The cries of a newborn could travel, carried on the wind, revealing his location to the ever-watchful Cronus. And so, the curates, fierce warrior spirits of the mountains, encircled the cave. They clashed their spears and shields, creating a thunderous rhythm that drowned out the infant's cries. The sound of their battle was fierce, constant, and unyielding, a protective symphony of steel, echoing against stone walls. In this hidden sanctuary, Zeus grew. Though unseen, he was not untouched by the forces of the world. The wind that whispered through the caves brought tales of the outer world. The earth beneath him resonated with the strength of his ancestors. The night sky, glimpsed through cracks and openings, offered glimpses of the vast cosmos he would one day command. Legends vary in the telling of his upbringing. Some say he was raised in a cave adorned with stalactites that glimmered like stars, the walls alive with ancient runes and sacred symbols. Others claim the nymphs hung golden apples from branches outside the cave, and that the infant Zeus would reach for them in play, unknowingly shaping his strength and dexterity. Some myths whisper of secret springs with waters that could heal, flowing near the cave, so that even the youngest god was tempered by magical forces of the earth. The symbolism of this hidden childhood is profound. Zeus was nurtured in secrecy, safe from tyranny. He was raised in destiny, the child of prophecy, who would one day fulfill his cosmic role. He was forged against all odds, surviving not just the physical threat of Cronus, but the weight of a fate that sought to crush him before his first breath. Every shadow of the cave, every echo of clashing shields, every whispered lullaby of Amalthea and the nymphs served to prepare him. For Zeus was learning patience, resilience, and cunning, qualities essential for the day when he would rise to challenge the Titan king. And yet, despite the darkness, there was light. The island of Crete, with its forests, rivers, and mountains, became a living cradle of power. Each night, the stars shone like a map of destiny, hinting at the greatness to come. The nymphs would tell him stories of his siblings, swallowed but not forgotten, planting seeds of courage and hope. Through this secret upbringing, Zeus grew not just in body, but in mind and spirit. He learned to listen to the earth, to read the currents of the wind, and to sense the pulse of the cosmos. Every trial, every shadowed moment strengthened him. Every secret song and every clashing shield prepared him for the confrontation that would one day shake the heavens. And so, in the hidden caves of Crete, the fate of the world was being quietly nurtured. The prophecy still hung over Cronus, unbroken and unyielding. The child who would rise to overthrow the Titan king was growing, guided by the hands of divine caretakers, shielded by the sounds of battle, and strengthened by the secret knowledge that even the smallest and weakest could one day challenge the mightiest of gods. The stage was set, the hidden child, destined to fulfill a prophecy older than the mountains themselves. was readying himself for the day when he would step from the shadows and into legend. Part 3. The Revolt begins. The years passed, and the hidden child of Crete grew into a god of unmatched strength and intellect. Zeus, once a fragile infant, was now a towering figure of potential and power, shaped by secrecy, patience, and the guidance of the nymphs and Amalthea. Every challenge of his hidden upbringing had forged him into a being ready for the impossible. But growing strong was not enough. Strength alone could not topple a titan who had swallowed his own children, who ruled the cosmos with fear and tyranny. Zeus would need cunning, strategy, and allies. He would need wisdom to match raw power. And so, the goddess Metis, embodiment of wisdom and craft, became his guide. She whispered secrets of strategy, of subtlety, and of cleverness that could overcome even the most formidable opponent. Together, they devised a plan to free the children of Cronus and set the stage for a rebellion that would shake the heavens. Zeus returned to confront his father, not with brute force alone, but with intelligence and foresight. In the heart of Olympus' shadowed court, he offered Cronus a potion, a mixture of cunning and divine knowledge, designed to force the Titan to release what he had consumed. As Cronus drank the potion, the prophecy that had haunted him for so long began to unfold. One by one, Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon were expelled from the dark prison of their father's stomach. Each emerged fully grown, their eyes wide with shock, their powers intact, yet tempered by the darkness they had endured. Imagine the scene. The Titan King, who had swallowed generations of his own blood, staggered in disbelief. Around him, the very children he had sought to destroy now stood as living proof of destiny's inevitability. Hestia, the goddess of hearth and home, radiated calm and order. Demeter, bringer of harvest and fertility, glowed with the vitality of the earth itself. Hera, radiant and regal, carried the spark of sovereignty and pride. Hades, lord of the shadowed underworld, exuded an aura of inevitability and quiet power. And Poseidon, master of the seas, shimmered with the restless energy of oceans and storms. Reunited at last, the siblings came together with Zeus at their lead. The first alliances of the Olympians were forged in the fires of tyranny, in the shadows of betrayal, and in the unyielding force of destiny. Each god understood their role, their power, and the task ahead: the overthrow of the father who had once devoured them, and the liberation of the cosmos from fear and oppression. The significance of this moment is profound. This was not just the emergence of gods from a literal prison, but the triumph of destiny over fear, of cunning over tyranny, of the next generation rising to claim its rightful place. The rebellion was no longer a whisper in the wind. It was a roar that would echo through mountains, seas, and the heavens themselves. Zeus, now fully grown and surrounded by his siblings, knew that the next step would be a war unlike any the cosmos had ever seen. The stage was set. The alliances were formed. The Olympians, united by blood and purpose, were ready to confront the Titans. And so, the revolt began. From this reunion of the children of Cronus, the story of the Titanomachy, the epic war between Titans and Olympians, would unfold. It was a battle that would decide the fate of gods and mortals alike. A conflict where cunning, strength, and destiny would collide in a cosmic clash of unimaginable scale. But before the war could rage across the heavens, the Olympians first savored the moment of unity, the rare and fleeting triumph of reunion, and the promise of vengeance tempered by justice. Every heartbeat, every glance, every whispered word between siblings was a reminder. Even the greatest tyranny cannot halt the tide of fate forever. And so, with their bonds forged in secret and strengthened by suffering, the Olympians prepared to face the ultimate challenge: the overthrow of the Titans and the establishment of a new order, led by Zeus, the destined king of the gods. Part 4. The Titanomachy, War of the Gods. The world trembled as the stage was set for the greatest battle the cosmos had ever known. For 10 long years, the forces of the old order and the new clashed in a war that would determine the fate of gods, mortals, and the very heavens themselves. On one side stood the Titans, mighty beings of immense strength who had ruled the cosmos for generations. Their fortress atop Mount Othrys rose like a blackened monument, dark clouds swirling around their peaks, lightning crackling unnaturally across storm-torn skies. The Titans were relentless, their power forged from the earliest ages of creation, their resolve unyielding, their rage incandescent. Opposing them stood the Olympians, led by Zeus, the youngest child of Cronus, now fully grown, his eyes burning with the fire of destiny. Mount Olympus, their sanctuary and stronghold, gleamed with golden light, a symbol of hope, order, and the promise of a new age. The air shimmered with anticipation as each god prepared their weapons and powers for the war to come. Zeus, master of the sky, wielded his thunderbolts, forged from lightning itself, capable of shattering mountains and scattering armies. Poseidon gripped his trident, able to summon storms, earthquakes, and tidal waves, his wrath mirrored in the fury of the seas. Hades, guardian of the shadowed underworld, donned the helm of invisibility, allowing him to move unseen, striking fear into the hearts of titans who thought themselves untouchable. Each god's power was unique, each weapon a force of nature, each presence a force that could shift the balance of war. The battle began with a fury that shook the heavens. Mountains crumbled under the weight of the Titans' strikes. Oceans boiled as Poseidon's trident summoned waves, taller than towers. Thunder roared across the sky as Zeus hurled bolt after bolt, each one exploding with celestial fire. Hades struck from the shadows, unseen, as the Titans sought to anticipate the movements of their hidden enemies. Yet for all their might, the Titans were not invincible. The turning point came when Zeus, in an act of brilliance and mercy, freed the Cyclopes and the Hecatoncheires, the 100-handed giants who had been imprisoned in Tartarus by their Titan ancestors. Towering and fearsome, the giants joined the Olympians, bringing with them unmatched strength and skill. The Cyclopes forged mighty weapons for the gods, instruments of power unlike any seen before. Thunderbolts for Zeus, sharper and brighter than the first sparks of creation. The trident for Poseidon, capable of summoning oceans and storms with a single gesture. And the helm of invisibility for Hades, granting him mastery over shadows and silence. Armed with these gifts, the Olympians' power reached heights that even the oldest Titans could not match. The battle raged across the cosmos, a maelstrom of fury, fire, and divine force. Mountains shattered. Rivers boiled. Lightning and waves tore through the battlefield as gods and titans clashed in titanic struggle. The cries of combat echoed across worlds, a chorus of rage, defiance, and destiny. In the final clash, Zeus led the charge. Thunderbolts rained from the heavens, lightning splitting the skies. Poseidon's trident tore fissures into the mountains, shaking the earth itself. Hades struck from unseen corners, his shadows swallowing Titans whole. The unity, cunning, and combined might of the Olympians proved unstoppable. Cronus, the once mighty Titan who had swallowed his own children, fell in defeat. His fury, his fear, and his hunger for power could not withstand the will of destiny incarnate in Zeus and his siblings. One by one, the Titans were cast down, banished to Tartarus, bound by chains, and guarded by the Hecatoncheires, ensuring they would never rise to threaten the cosmos again. And so, after 10 years of relentless combat, the war came to an end. The Olympians emerged victorious, triumphant not merely through strength, but through unity, strategy, and the relentless fulfillment of prophecy. The cosmos, once torn by rebellion and fear, now began a new chapter, an age ruled by the children of Cronus, led by Zeus, king of the gods. The Titanomachy was more than a battle. It was a transformation of the universe itself. Mountains bore the scars of war. Oceans carried the memory of storms. The sky shimmered with the echoes of thunderbolts. And in the aftermath, a new order had been forged, one that would shape the stories, the myths, and the destiny of gods and mortals for all time. Through courage, cunning, and divine might, the Olympians had risen. The era of Titans had ended. The age of gods had begun. Part 5. Aftermath and the Division of Realms. The echoes of the Titanomachy had finally faded. Mountains bore scars of battle, oceans roared with memories of unleashed storms, and the sky itself shimmered with the residual power of Zeus, thunderbolts. 10 years of relentless combat had come to an end, and the universe, weary, battered, and transformed, now faced a new dawn. The Titans, once rulers of all that existed, were vanquished. Cronus, the father who had devoured his own children, and his siblings were cast into the abyss of Tartarus, a prison as deep and dark as the fears they had sown. There, the Hecaton shears, the 100-handed giants, stood vigilant, their countless arms forming unbreakable chains that ensured the Titans could never again rise to challenge the cosmos. The old order was broken, and the children of Cronus now held dominion over the world. But the victory of the Olympians was only the beginning. The universe was vast, chaotic, and full of potential. Power alone could not maintain order. It needed structure, it needed governance, and it needed a ruler to divide the realms fairly among the victors. And so, Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades, the three brothers, drew lots to determine their domains. Zeus, eldest in wisdom though youngest in birth, claimed the sky and Olympus itself. He would reign over the heavens, commanding the storms, the lightning, and the vast expanse of clouds and stars. Mount Olympus, now the seat of divine authority, gleamed with golden light, a beacon of hope and power for the universe below. Poseidon, lord of the oceans, drew the sea as his realm. From the smallest river to the boundless oceans, he wielded his trident to command the tides, the storms, and all creatures that swam in his watery kingdom. The seas, once chaotic and untamed, now bore the mark of his authority, both nurturing and perilous, reflecting the duality of his nature. Hades, the eldest in temperament and wisdom, took the underworld, the shadowed realm beneath the earth, where souls of the dead would dwell. There he ruled over the balance between life and death, his presence unseen, yet absolute. Mortals and gods alike would respect and fear him, knowing that the inevitability of death was as sacred as it was final. In this division, a new cosmic order was established. Each realm reflected the nature of its ruler. The sky as a domain of law and leadership, the seas as a domain of power and unpredictability, and the underworld as a realm of shadow and inevitability. Together, the three brothers maintained balance, ensuring that chaos would not again rule unchecked. The other Olympians were granted their roles as well. Hera, queen and goddess of marriage, stood beside Zeus as protector of family and sovereignty. Demeter, guardian of harvest and fertility, nurtured the earth and its creatures. Hestia, keeper of the hearth and home, safeguarded warmth and domestic order. Each deity found their purpose within this new hierarchy, their powers shaping the world in harmony with one another. From the ashes of war, the universe was renewed. The age of Titans had ended, replaced by the age of Olympians, a new era of gods who would watch over mortals, who would shape the land, seas, and skies, and who would inspire myths that would echo across eternity. Yet even in victory, the shadows of rebellion and conflict lingered. The Titans, though imprisoned, were not entirely forgotten. The memory of war remained in the mountains, the oceans, and the heavens. And the lessons of prophecy, that destiny cannot be denied, would forever guide the actions of gods and mortals alike. Thus, the cosmos had been divided, ordered, and renewed. Zeus, king of the gods, held the sky. Poseidon ruled the seas. Hades reigned over the underworld. Together, the Olympians began their reign, a reign that would shape the heavens, the earth, and the fate of all who lived beneath the sun and stars. The victory was complete. The order was established, and the age of the Olympians had begun. Part 6. The war is over. The war was over. The Titans were defeated, cast into the depths of Tartarus, bound and powerless. The heavens, seas, and underworld had been claimed by the children of Cronus. Yet even in victory, the echoes of the past lingered, a reminder that power, ambition, and fear are never fully vanquished. Throughout this epic struggle, a timeless theme emerged: the cycle of fathers and sons, of rebellion against tyranny, of destiny that cannot be denied. Cronus, who had once risen against Uranus, had fallen to his own children. And now Zeus, having faced adversity, secrecy, and challenge, stood as the culmination of this cycle. A god born from prophecy, nurtured in hiding, tempered by hardship, and triumphant through courage and cunning. But the story does not end here. For though Zeus had secured the heavens and established his rule, the world remained full of challenges. Alliances would be tested. Mortals and gods alike would bring new trials. Heroes would rise, legends would be forged, and the age of Olympus would unfold in ways even the gods could not fully predict. And so, from the triumph of the Revolt to the division of the realms, from the shadows of prophecy to the light of a new order, the cosmos entered a new era, an era ruled by Zeus, king of the gods. From the ashes of war, a new order emerged, the age of Zeus, king of the gods.
And so, Zeus rose victorious, king of the gods, ruler of Olympus, and keeper of thunder. But remember, power never comes without consequence. In the shadows of the underworld, other forces were already stirring. So, thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this journey through Greek mythology, please make sure to subscribe to my channel, because next time we'll descend into the underworld of Hades. Bye bye.